Hey everyone, this is Rita. Thank you so much for watching. This is my submission for the 2017 NYX Face Awards. I was inspired to do this look based on both of my nationalities, American and Brazilian, and I decided to create the skull using the colors from both of the flags. If you want to see how I did this look, please keep on watching. I started off this look by moisturizing and priming my face, my neck, and my lips. Next, I picked up my NYX Jumbo pencil in the color Milk and used it to trace around my eyes. I did this by feeling around approximately where my orbital bone is, and in my case I actually made the shape larger than my bone. I did this because whenever I do skull looks, I prefer to include my eyebrows in the look instead of blocking them out. Also, by making the shape larger than your actual bone, it gives you more room to play around, add colors, and do lots of shading later on. The shape doesn't have to be perfect, but it's a good idea to map out where they're going to go so you can keep the white face paint from that area, since later on we'll be adding black. Then, using a sponge and a brush, I'm going to cover my entire face with white face paint, avoiding the eye area we just outlined. Don't worry about making it completely opaque because we're going to be doing lots of shading and highlighting, so we can clean up later on. So for now, just make sure to have a good base. Whenever using a water-activated face paint, you technically don't need to set your face with powder. However, I'll be using eyeshadows for a lot of the shading in this look, and powder blends better on top of powder. So you will see me set my face either with an eyeshadow or a translucent powder throughout this look. Here, you see me applying a white eyeshadow on my lips and my cheek area where the teeth are going to go. To start making the teeth, I will be using an angled brush and a blue eyeshadow. I created the teeth by making straight lines down my lips, rounding the teeth where my lips meet, and pointing them out towards my nose for the top or the chin for the bottom. I also shade in between each teeth to create dimension. This part is very important and the one that requires the most patience. Take your time and don't worry if it doesn't look like much just yet, because we'll be going back in with face paint to add contrast, shading, and highlighting. I then switched to a black eyeshadow to start mapping out the cheekbone. Again, take your time with the shape and try to match each side as best as you can. You see me struggle a bit here, but I left the footage in so you can see that you can always fix it by applying white face paint on top of the line to erase it, or by removing it with a makeup wipe and starting over. Which is what I recommend, because if you add too much paint on top of paint, it will eventually start cracking. Then I picked up a blue face paint and started adding more color and depth to the teeth. I concentrated the color on the rounded part of the teeth near the opening of my lips and adding very little and fading it out to the lines going up towards my nose and down towards my chin. To create the dimension I wanted, I kept switching between an angled and straight brush and kept applying various degrees of pressure and amount of paint to the area of the teeth. Once I was satisfied with how the teeth looked, I picked up the blue shadow again and filled in that cheek outline we created. I then went back to the blue face paint and started pulling lines from where the teeth ends towards the cheekbone. I almost wanted these lines to look like muscles or veins, and to do that, I once again added various degrees of pressure and the amount of paint, with most of the paint concentrated on the cheekbone. Once satisfied with both cheeks, I then picked up some black face paint and repeated the same steps as I had done with the blue face paint. Using it in between each teeth, concentrating it where the teeth rounds near the opening of my lips, and then on my cheeks, adding those same lines and concentrating the paint on my cheekbone. The reason I decided to make the teeth area blue is because that is the color that both the American and Brazilian flags share. For the eyes, I'll be making my right eye the Brazilian eye, using the other colors on that flag, green and yellow, and my left eye the American, using red and white. With that same black paint, I then started to outline my eyes, following the shape we had created earlier with the white pencil. With the paint still wet, I picked up a brush and started to blend the paint towards my eyes. I did this because we are adding colors to the eyes and we want to make sure that there is a gradual blend towards the black. Next, I picked up the NYX eyeshadow base in white and added it all over my lids and under my eyes, filling in all the places we will be adding eyeshadow. I then went in with the white eyeshadow to set that base. For the Brazilian eye, I firstly added a dark green shadow to my crease from the outer to inner corners, creating a rounded shape and then adding it under my eyes. I kept going back and forth between the black shadow and the other colors I was using to blend everything out back to the black face paint outlining my eyes. I then picked up the NYX Glitter Primer and used it as a base to add the brighter colors. I placed it on the center of my lids and on my lower lash line. Next, I added a matte yellow shade to the middle of my lids where I had applied that primer. I also kept going back and forth between the green and yellow to help blend those colors together. Next, I added a light shimmer green shade to my lower lash line where I had applied the primer. I wasn't satisfied with how the yellow shadow looked, so I went back and applied more of that glitter primer over that area and then went in with the yellow shimmer shade. Then I realized I wasn't satisfied with how the green area looked either, so I applied some of the glitter primer to my crease area and then applied that light green shimmer shade over that. I then did the same thing under my eyes and just kept going back into other colors, blending everything together, adding more when necessary, and blending everything out to the black. For the American eye, I started off by blending a red shadow on my crease from inner to outer corner and under my eyes in that same rounded shape. Once again, remember to go back between the black and the red to make sure that they are blended well together. I once again went back to the glitter primer, applied it to my crease, and then applied the red shadow over it to add more pigmentation. Next, I applied the glitter primer to the center of my lid and then applied a shimmer white shade over it. Once again, going back and forth between the red and white to blend the colors together. Then, I picked up the NYX Jumbo pencil in the shade Black Bean and used it to line my lower and top lash lines. Next, I applied mascara to my top and lower lashes and then applied fake lashes. So my camera wasn't recording when I drew on the nose, but I just drew a V shape on the bridge of my nose and then drew a line from the tip of each V down each of the side of my nose, meeting the lines in the middle and the tip of my nose, and then filling it all in with black face paint. Now this skull is still looking a little too flat, so we need to add some more shadow and dimension. Because I'm going to use eyeshadow to do all of the shadows, I decided to set my face with a translucent powder in all the areas that have white face paint. To start the shadows, I began by using a matte dark brown eyeshadow and started by wrinkling my forehead with an angry expression and shading in where the lines naturally appear on my face. Then, using that same brown eyeshadow, I'm going to add shading anywhere in the skull that has a line that curves. Next, to add highlight, I picked up a white face paint and will add a highlight between the curved lines and the shadows I created, as well as anywhere the light naturally hits the face and the teeth. So I was ready to move on to the final touches on my face and then down to my body, when I took a second look and decided that there was something missing from this look. Glitter! Because glitter makes everything better. So I picked up that glitter primer once again and applied it to the center of both of my eyelids. Then I picked up the NYX Glitter Brilliance and used the shade Gold on top of the yellow shadow for the Brazilian side and the shade Crystal on top of the white shadow on the American side. Next, I picked up a wet glitter shadow and applied it to each individual teeth. Finally, I picked up a black eyeshadow and started applying it to the entire perimeter of my face, and then went in with black face paint on top of the shadow, blending it out and covering my hairline and ears. I also realized that this skull needed a few cracks and added some with black face paint to my chin, forehead, and sides of face by drawing little thin lines that branch off of each other. Make sure to use a thin brush with very little product on it. To create the bones on the chest, I used a reference picture and drew a rough sketch and outline with white paint. Then I went in with black paint to fill in the blank spaces and to start cleaning up. Then I went back and forth between the black and white paints to start fixing up the shapes. Make sure you let the paints dry in between these changes or the paints will mix and you end up with the gray colors you see in some of my shots. Which I didn't mind because I wanted the look to be messier, but it was a little bit too much, and eventually I go off camera and wait for it to dry and fix a little more. I also pick up a smaller brush and that black paint and start adding details to the neck bone and separating some of the bones from each other. Once satisfied with the shapes of the bones, I picked up different color shadows to add shading to each of the bones. I started off with blue and used it on all of the bones in the center of my body, once again shading where the lines curve and concentrating on one side more than the other on some of the bones. Then I went in with white paint and added a highlight between where I had placed the eyeshadow as well as in the center of each bone. I repeated the same steps for the American side, or the left side of my body, but this time using red eyeshadow for shading and then highlighting the same way with white paint. And here on the Brazilian side, or the right side of my body, I used green eyeshadow for shading and once again white paint to highlight. And now, it's time for glitter. I used the same wet glitter shadow that I had used for the teeth on the center bones, applying the glitter to the areas I had highlighted with white paint. Then, for the right side of my body, I applied the glitter primer to the highlighted areas of the bones, and then applied that gold glitter over top. And then I did the same for the left side, but this time using the glitter in the shade Crystal. And then here I just gave up on using a brush and just started applying the glitter directly on my skin and just cleaning up and reapplying wherever needed. And that is it, guys. This is the finished look. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed creating this look.